I think we can just about make it if everybody sticks to the 3-minute timeline. We appreciate you doing that. 42 is Mary Gu. So if you're 43, 44, 45, come on down or get ready to come up quickly when your number's called. Go ahead.
My name is Mary Gu. I'm extremely short, so I have to get my microphone down. I'm here on behalf of myself. This year I celebrate my 30th year as a registered nurse and my 18th year as a school nurse in our district in town. There is very little that I can say that has not been said already, but I think that it's very important that you hear all of our voices. I do not feel that my salary and benefits should be looked at as a bank that the state can dip into when they are in crisis. However, it's not appropriate for me to say, don't cut me, just cut all of them. We're all in this together. As citizens, we have a responsibility to pay for the services in our state. It's a government by the people, and that means all of us need to step up and pay the taxes that we need to make this a state that we would be proud of. Right now, I look and see that we are cutting the people that don't have voices. As a nurse, I've gone into homes and had clients say, I have no food. I can't support, I can't buy my medicines. I have children that show up to school that have not eaten. I go and buy the thermometers that I need to take a child's temperature because the one that the school district can afford, I challenge you to get into that 3-year-old's mouth. When the governor or a legislator runs on a platform and says, no new taxes, you have painted yourself into a corner that you just simply can't get out of. You have to be flexible and look at the needs of the state. I agree with the gentleman that said you cannot solve this crisis in this session, but you need to put out a very strong roadmap, and you need to start with some stable sources of revenue for the state that will keep us going and is not dependent on the whims of a tourist who may decide to come or may decide to gamble. Thank you.
Marcia's number 43.
Good morning, I'm Marcia O'Malley. I am a resident of Northwest Reno. I am a parent of a young child who has Down syndrome, and I'm also the director of a statewide nonprofit organization that serves people with disabilities. And I feel very emotional today. The stories that have been told to you this morning are just echoes of the voices that we hear on a daily basis in my organization and that I hear personally from friends of mine here in the community. I'm here to support personally any increase in revenues. I will personally pay more taxes. I would be happy to see an income tax happen in this state eventually. Our population can take no more cuts. There's nothing more to cut from them. And I have a couple of stories to share with you of people who have called us for assistance over the last 6 months. We're one of the agencies that provides information and referral to families and to individuals with disabilities. And we're one of the agencies that is struggle to find places to refer people to at this point. I have staff who go home at night in tears because they can't find anything more, any new resource. Everything that they've come up with, the family or the individual has already tried and there's nowhere else to go. We had a mom call us back in December in a frantic state because she had had a daughter who had been born at one of our hospitals here back in April prematurely. Had been in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, this entire time, and she was just getting ready to bring her home. She was ready to come home with the proper supports at home. She could care for her there, and her daughter could actually get out of the hospital for the first time in her life. That week, the only pediatric home caregiver in the area ceased services because the Medicaid reimbursement rates had been reduced to such a degree they couldn't afford to do it anymore. That child, I believe, is still in the NICU. You've heard from a number of adults here about the personal care attendant situation too. 1 hour a day. They get to choose between being dressed and bathed or being fed. The decrease in pay is a huge issue. We have issues threatening special education, early intervention services. cuts in our health care programs for Nevada Checkup, Medicaid, they're abysmal. They're setting such a risky situation for people. We just cannot continue doing that. Developmental services have been cut dramatically. You've heard from respite from people around autism, other supports. Mental health, closures of rural clinics. I mean, that's an absolute embarrassment for this state after finally building it up to something that was actually making a difference. Nevada 201, the Governor's Office of Consumer Health Assistance. Please take advantage of all federal dollars you have available to you and anything that can be matched with what money you have. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for being here today. Number 44 is Jan Hilbert.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all being here. I know how hard you work and how many hours you put in at the legislature, and to have your 2 days on the weekend and have to take a day like this, it's brutal, and I really appreciate it. You hear from me all the time about where we stand on indicators of well-being. I am so tired of being last, and I think everyone in the audience is. We want to be average, or even at the top of the list someday. And so I'm here to talk about taxes. I have a chart here in front of me that shows we are cheap. We are at the bottom of the list at putting our spending as a percent of gross domestic product. We are 50th. And we are 50th when you add in the federal dollars. We rank at the bottom. So those people who say we should just tighten our belts are absolutely delusional. We cannot tighten our belts. We're already at the bottom. And now I'd like to say that I hope when you do raise taxes, you will look at the issue of regressivity. Our tax structure is one of the most regressive in the country. We tax those at the bottom 20% 4 times as much as we tax people at the top 1%. I have a chart here that shows it's 8.3%. Those at the bottom are about $17,000. That's what they make, $17,000. And those at the top, the wealthiest, 2% of their income goes to taxes. So when you look at your tax proposals, please consider this in your deliberations. My organization is looking at business taxes. 47 states pay a business profits tax. We are one of 3 that do not. And you can see the variation in rates on this chart. We are proposing that you protect small business, and below $50,000 profit, do not tax them. Over $50,000 to $100,000 tax at 5%, and above $100,000 tax at 7%. We found out that 85% of the businesses in Nevada are under $100,000 net profit. So you're really affecting only those at the top. The second proposal we have is to raise the modified business tax. And I would propose you look at tiering that also. We want our tax structure to be fair and equitable, but we also want it to be adequate. And you've heard the stories in the audience. It's just heartbreaking what we face. It's time for taxes, and it's time to make our tax structure progressive and not tax those at the very bottom of the scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Number 45 is Julianne